Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Amanda and this is the Strawberry Moon Homestead. So today I am going to be showing you 5 frugal homestead meals that you can make to help keep inflation down in your household. So today I am going to start off with a pot pie recipe. I was going to do chicken, but I forgot to take it out to defrost. So now I'm going to be using beef that I canned up a little while ago. Chicken would be a more frugal dinner option. The beef is expensive these days. However, I got this on a really good sale a while ago. I picked up a lot of it and I canned it up. So this is still a frugal option for my family. But if you are looking for a more frugal option for your family, chicken might be the way to go. You can do a whole chicken that you get at the store, or you can get some canned chicken at the store. You do what's on sale and whatever works for you. So it kind of goes without saying that if you grow your own garden and you can get a lot of those vegetables from your garden, this is going to be a more frugal meal by far. But if you can't, then keep an eye out for those sales. You can use up whatever vegetables you have in your fridge, which is great. I love meals like that where you can just use whatever vegetables that you have left behind that need to be used up and you can just throw them in there. So a lot of what I am going to be using are vegetables that I've canned up this summer, or as with my carrots, I canned them up last year and these are the last of them, so I need to use them up. So they're going to go in this meal tonight. And then I also have some corn that I canned this year. I have some dehydrated zucchini, and then I'm going to use some of our potatoes and obviously my beef. I'll show you how I make this pie so you can do yours at home as well. So I'm going to start off chopping up some of the garlic that we grew this year, as well as one of our onions. So when it comes to garlic, I say just measure with your heart. You could use a couple cloves for this, but we love garlic in our family, so I'm going to be using all 4 cloves. So I decided to do these frugal meals because I know a lot of people are struggling with the rate of inflation these days and finding good, healthy meals that are still frugal and cheap enough to fit into the budget. So I thought I'd share the ones that we use in our family to help beat inflation and stay on top of things. And a pot pie is one of our favorites for sure. So one of the reasons why I love a pot pie is that you can use all the cheap vegetables in it. The root vegetables, celery, which I actually don't have right now, but any vegetables that you happen to have around, you can just toss in there. You can also use whatever meat is available and on sale. So if you find a great sale on beef, use that. You find a great sale on chicken, use that. You could probably even use beans in this recipe. I am just starting to brown my onions and my garlic in my cast iron pan, and while these are starting to brown, I am going to get my potatoes chopped up. So instead of using the potatoes that I grew myself, I'm actually going to use the potatoes that I had left from the Extreme Budget Meal Challenge that I did a little while ago. If you're interested in watching that video, I'll link it down below. It's where I did an extreme challenge of meals for my family for a week for $50. So if you're interested in watching more frugal meal ideas or canning ideas, make sure you hit that subscribe button and I will show you all of our suburban homesteading and frugal ideas that we have here. All right, I have my potatoes in the frying pan and they are cooking up with the onions and garlic. And because all of my other ingredients are cooked in the jars, I'm not going to put them in just yet. So while these are cooking, I'm going to get started on my pie crust. All right, so I have 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour in my mixing bowl. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of salt. And then I'm just going to mix that in. And I'm going to add 1/2 cup of lard. There we go. Now I'm going to get out my fancy dancy pastry. I don't even know what the name of this is. If you know what the name of that is, let me know in the comments. I know it's for pie crusts and cutting up the lard. I couldn't tell you what the name of it is though. So we're just going to mix this in until it's kind of small, crumbly bits of lard in the flour, about the size of a pea. So that is what it should look like. You can see these little bits are just pretty small, about the size of a pea. And that's about how small you need them. And then we're going to add some nice cold water to this and mix it up. All right, so we are going to add about 8 tablespoons of water, but not all at once. We're going to add a little bit and stir that in. I know pie crust can be really intimidating sometimes, but once you get in there, get your hands dirty and get it done, you can realize that it's really not that hard to make. And the taste difference between this and the store-bought pie crust is just unimaginable. It is so much better than any store-bought crust you could get. There we go. So I'll add a little bit more, but this is pretty much the consistency that you're going to want it so that you have a nice flaky crust. I just want to be able to grab up all those little bits on the bottom. All right, so I am going to go get some flour to flour my surface so we can roll this out. Okay, so I'm just going to throw this down on my counter. I want a big enough spot where I can roll this into a circle. So I'm also going to take some of this, throw it onto my rolling pin to keep it from sticking. I'm going to take half of my dough, throw a little flour down on it, and we're just going to roll it out. So I know other people make, you know, more elaborate pie crusts or prettier pie crusts or whatever, but this pie crust is great if you're a beginner pie crust maker. And you know what? Not all pie crusts have to be pretty. As long as they're edible and they taste good, that's all that matters. You don't need to do all the decorations. I mean, the decorations are lovely, very nice, but they are not a necessity. And I know when you are trying to raise a family and clean the house and have everything set, having that time to dedicate into little decorations can be difficult. So just measure. You know what you're going to do here is just roll it back up onto your rolling pin. There we go. So there is your base. Take any thin spots and you can just move some more dough into that area. Now we'll get our filling finished. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add my canned vegetables. I am going to keep the water in here. I'm not gonna drain it out because I need the extra liquid for the gravy. So there's my carrots. I'll add some corn. Now I'm going to add my beef. When you can beef, it just gives it the most lovely texture. It is soft, very tender. I will always can my stewed beef because it just gives it the best texture and flavor. There we go. All right, so we'll just stir this in, and then you can add whatever seasonings you'd like. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of Montreal steak spice and some rosemary, and probably a little bit of salt because I do not can my meat or my vegetables with salt. I'm gonna salt that fairly liberally. And I forgot to add my dehydrated zucchini. I did this dehydrated zucchini in a video a little while back. I will link that down below. My friend had a crazy amount of zucchini come up, so she actually filled my car trunk with zucchini. So this is part of what I did with it. And it is so handy to be able to just throw that in there. So this zucchini will soak up some of this liquid as well. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of steak seasoning and a little bit of rosemary. You can add obviously whatever herbs and spices your family enjoys, but I do find that these two spices go really nicely with the beef. Okay, so I'm just gonna stir this together. I'm gonna let it come up to a simmer just so that the flavors can meld together. And then I'm gonna get some cornstarch and water ready so that I can thicken up this gravy a bit. And then we'll stuff our pie. All right, so my ingredients here are just starting to simmer. So I am going to add this liquid, my cornstarch and water, and this will help to thicken up the gravy. You're going to want to stir this fairly continuously just to make sure that all of the gravy thickens up and you're not going to get any clumps or lumps. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to let this come back to a simmer, and by then the liquid should be fairly thick by that point and we'll be ready for our pie. Right, while we are waiting for our ingredients to come to a simmer, we are going to get the last half of our dough rolled out. So, get every last little bit there, and cover this with flour so it doesn't stick. And this will just be the top of our pie. So you can also get your oven preheated to 350 degrees. Because once we have our pie filling in the pie, we'll be able to toss it right into the oven. All right, we are ready to fill our pie crust. The gravy has thickened, and this is a nice hearty meal. So this meal, because I grew and canned a lot of what is here, cost me about $8 with all the ingredients. Oops. Move this a little bit closer so we don't go losing things in my oven and my stove. So these prices may vary for you, especially again if you happen to use less costly ingredients like chicken or beans. You could probably also do a pork pot pie for all I know. Not that I have ever experimented with that. So I'm actually going to have some filling left over as well, which is going to be nice. So that's a pretty topped up pie. All right, I am going to go get my top crust and we are going to finish this off and pop it in the oven. All right, so got my pie crust all on my rolling pin. I'm just going to roll it over top. There we go. Just like that. And then you can take a pair of scissors, cut off any dough. So you can actually roll this dough up, put it in a Ziploc bag, and put it in a freezer. You can save it for other projects, like little mini pies, or if you save enough up, you can save enough for another pie. There we go. Okay, so you're going to want to seal your ends. And that way we're not getting liquid that's coming out the sides. My ends are never pretty. This is not an art that I have really mastered, but I mean the pie tastes good, so there's that. I'm actually going to do this with a fork. I find that it just works a little bit better for me. We just fork the sides and it just seals the ends. There we go. So this will easily feed a family of 4, probably 5. There we go. And then on the top, you're going to want some venting holes. So I just take a serrated knife. Oh, I'm still butchering this. Hit that like button if you've ever butchered a pie. Still tastes good though. All right, now what I'm going to do next is actually put an egg wash on the top of this because it just makes the pie crust so crunchy and crumbly and so awesome. All right, so I am going to use one of our chicken eggs. So again, if you have chickens, then this is a much more frugal option. So I know eggs around here are going for like $5 a dozen right now. So it's quite expensive. And if you have your own chickens, you can feed them kitchen scraps. And I mean, my chickens would rather have all the kitchen scraps than have any chicken feed. But it supplements the meal, and then these eggs are pretty cheap, and we have a ton of eggs, which is so awesome. It's definitely never one thing that I run out of, typically giving them away. So you just want to cover your pie crust like this. I know some people will take their the sides of their crust and cover it in aluminum foil for the first like 10 or 15 minutes. I don't have time for that. So I just put it all in at the same time, and I don't fuss about my pie ends. There we go. But we can tell I don't really fuss about my pies. I'm going to get this in the oven for about 45 minutes, and I'll see you when I pull it out. All right, here is the finished product, and it is smelling amazing. I know that it is going to taste wonderful. Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 2. So today I am going to be making some pumpkin soup with our carving pumpkins from Halloween. So Halloween was just yesterday, and I'm going to get these carving pumpkins all cut up and put in the oven so I can roast them, soften them, and then I'm going to put them in a soup. So not many people know that carving pumpkins are also very edible. We have 4 of them, so that's a lot of pumpkin. So I'm just going to get these all done up, and I'll show you how I do that. All right, so I'm going to get this guy cut up into quarters probably, and I'm going to stick it in my roasting pan, put it in the oven, and roast it for a couple of hours to make it nice and soft. Nice thing about this is that the guts have already been taken out, so I'm just cutting it up and getting it in some water. So, about this big. I think I'm only going to fit 2 of these pieces in here. And the rest I might actually throw in my slow cooker. All right, so I'm gonna fill this up about a quarter of the way just so that it will steam my pumpkin, and then I'm gonna cover it in some aluminum foil. All right, I'm gonna get this in my oven at about 450 degrees. I'm gonna check it in about an hour and see how it's doing. All right, so this recipe calls for some onions, carrots, and potatoes. So I will get these chopped up and put into my pot with a little bit of butter just to simmer them down a little bit. And then I will get the rest of my ingredients in. Okay, I've got my vegetables in my pot and I'm just going to fry them up a little bit in some butter here, cook them down a little bit. Then I will add my broth and my pumpkin. I wanted to add that I did put in a turnip that we grew a lot of turnips this year, and my kids aren't a huge fan, but they're easy to hide in soups, so I threw a turnip in here just to hide it. Almost forgot the garlic. I'll get this peeled and get all of these cloves in there. So it's supposed to be 5 cloves, but I'm putting it all. All right, so while this is cooking down, I am going to add a little bit of rosemary. That was a lot of rosemary, but that's okay because I love rosemary. And I'm also going to add a little bit of salt. So, about a tablespoon, I'd say. Or 3/4 of a tablespoon at any rate. Just because I'm putting in a lot of vegetable stock, or chicken stock actually, which I have made and canned myself. And I didn't add any salt to that when I was doing it. So I am adding a decent amount of salt so that it flavors the pumpkin as well. All right, so I have my pumpkin here. I am going to take about 4 cups of pumpkin out of here and put it in my soup. I also have 2 jars of chicken broth that I canned up. If you're looking to see how to do that, I will link the video below. And I'm going to put these in with my vegetables and with the pumpkin and stir it all up. So since we cooked this, I had steamed it in the oven, it just peels away from the shell really easily. It's a really easy way to cook it. Another really easy way to cook a squash, not necessarily a big pumpkin, but is to put it in your slow cooker. You can just poke a couple holes in it, put it in your slow cooker with a little bit of water, put it on high for 2 hours, and your squash will be cooked through. It's typically what I do, but this pumpkin's obviously a little bit too big for that. So whatever I don't use in this recipe, I am just going to save for another recipe. I can freeze it like this. I also have a dog who just had puppies, and I like putting pumpkin in her meals. So I will probably save some of this for her as well. All right, so I have 2 mason jars of chicken broth. And you can use any broth. It's supposed to be about 3.5 cups. I actually might not even use all of this. So about 1.5 jars I think I'm going to use. Here we go. So that's what this is looking like. right now. I'm going to let this cook down a bit, and then I am going to blend it up. Right, there's our soup. So if you wanted to add cream or a little bit of milk or even a little bit of sour cream, that would go nice on top of this. But to keep it more on the frugal side, I am not going to do that, but I am looking forward on getting some homemade bread and digging into this. It's a wonderful way to use up those carving pumpkins. So welcome to day 3. It has been a really busy day and I need to get something in the oven really quickly. So I am going to do a chicken and tomato sauce pasta. It's not your regular tomato sauce. So what I do in the summer when I have my cherry tomatoes, I throw them in the oven with olive oil, onions, garlic, and an herb of some sort like basil or rosemary. And I roast it all up. And then I put it in a jar, and as long as it's covered with olive oil on the top, it does not go bad. It will last about a year in your fridge. So this is what I have here. I have the majority of one of my shelves in my fridge are these. So I'd like to get using them. So I'm gonna put this in with some chicken in my oven and some cream cheese and bake it all up. I also have some frozen peppers that I'm going to use from the garden this summer. I'm gonna get this all baked up, then I'm gonna cook some pasta and mix it all together. There it is. This dish is absolutely delicious and a hit with the kids as well. Hello everybody, welcome back to day 4. So today I'm going to do up some slow cooker chili. Alright, so I have these leftover hamburgers that have been sitting in my freezer for a while, and I'm going to use these as the beef in my chili just to get them out of the freezer and as a frugal option. And then I'm going to go get some beans and I'll show you how I make it. So I have diced onions, garlic, a turnip, and some mushrooms in here. I will probably be making this chili a little differently than like a traditional chili just because I like to, once again, add whatever vegetables I have in here. Another good recipe to hide turnips in, by the way. And now I'm going to throw in a home canned tomato sauce. It doesn't have any flavorings or spices in it. Now some diced tomatoes. Now I'm going to get my beans and my beef in here and then my seasonings. All right, I got my beef in there and now a can of black beans. Now I'm going to stir this up. All right, so throw in a couple teaspoons chili powder. I'm going to stir that up. Then I'm going to put this on low. Well, you can put it on low for 6 hours or high for 4. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. All right, here is the finished chili. It is smelling amazing, so I can't wait to be getting into this right now. You can serve this with rice, but I think we're going to serve it with some homemade bread. All right, it's last day of frugal dinners, and I have got a lot of eggs. My chickens are being very generous right now. And then I've got these 2 bacons, which I got on a really good sale not that long ago. And then I've got some bread that I'd like to use up. So we are gonna have breakfast for dinner tonight. Nothing more frugal than some eggs. All right, there it is, our last frugal meal. It's not pretty, but it is delicious. If you don't have bacon, go ahead and make egg salad sandwiches. Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember, if you want to see some frugal meals, some homestead cooking, and some suburban homestead life, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I will be having a lot of really good content coming in over the holidays, so stick with me. I'll see you next time.